here now back to a new Simpsons video, and we're back with yet another re-reviewing of my favorite Simpson episodes, and this is one of my favorite two-parter specials. And again, this episode is split into, like I mentioned, two. The Who Shot Mr. Burns special. That the first part ended the 6th season, and the second part started the 7th season. And again, this is one of my favorite episodes. Another one of my favorites. And it starts with Principal Skinner opening the school and ends up finding this smell, which, yeah, one of the school pets died. And groundskeeper Willie is making a proper burial for it. And he actually struck oil. Yeah. And yeah, Mr. Burns is saying that he needs this thing to be delivered, and they're passing it on to different people, and Homer passes it and brings it back to Mr. Burns, and yeah, of course, Mr. Burns is like, who is this? And he's like, I worked here for 10 years, and my boss doesn't remember my name. And yeah, this guy tells Principal Skinner and Superintendent Chalmers that they struck oil. And yeah, Mr. Burns realizes that they struck oil while they're doing exercising. And Homer's trying to get Mr. Burns to remember his name. But yeah, he just can't get Mr. Burns to say his name. Which everybody's telling him not to feel bad for. And yeah, Principal Skinner showing Superintendent Chalmers that they made the front paper. And he covers his hand over the awful school part. And yeah, they get different people to, and so of what they can actually do. Like Willie wants a new blanket and a bucket. The lunch lady wants a new kitchen staff. Lisa, with this hiring this professional musician, jazz musician of a class. And then we just get some funny ones, like Ralph with chocolate microscopes, Otto with double guitars, and even Mr. Burns trying to pretend to be Jumbo Jones, and he's saying that he wants that oil, and trying to attack Skinner, and Smithers hitting him with staplers. And yeah, Homer's just upset that, again, working there for 10 years, and Mr. Burns doesn't remember his name. I mean, you gotta give Mr. Burns a break. He is 104 years old, right? People at an old age would have sometimes forget, people's names and stuff. So you can't really blame him. And Marge suggests of doing a box of chocolates with a picture. Yeah, with a picture in it, which he does so, and Mr. Burns is just looking out and saying how, yeah, just seeing this plan that is not going to go so well, I can just say, or you can tell it's not going to be well, and he sees a baby, like, taking candy from a baby, and they eat some chocolates instead of taking candy from a baby, and, yeah, Mr. Burns sees the picture of Maggie, which, yeah, he remembers Maggie, he remembers Santa's Little Helper, he remembers Bart, he remembers everybody, but there's one piece left, which they throw it away, and it's a picture of Homer. Yeah, Mr. Burns says, hey, look, oh, look, there's Maggie, there's Marge, there's Bart, there's Snowball, there's Santa's Little Helper, there's Lisa, everybody except Homer. And yeah, everybody's getting ready to unveil this thing at the school with the oil, and apparently somebody's taken the oil. And yeah, Mr. Burns is the one that took the oil. And the oil splashes and destroys Bart's treehouse. And of course Marge says, and Santa's Little Helper's having to wear this cast. And yeah, they can't do anything about Mr. Burns and his stealing the oil, and they can't even get their stuff that they want too. And Willie is like, I'll kill that Mr. Burns and wound that Mr. Smithers too. And Lisa is telling Homer how can you work for a man like Mr. Burns? And he says that he gave him this thank you card, but it says Marge, Bart, Lisa, Maggie. And of course, Homer then says that it doesn't have his name on it, and he's like, kids, can you step outside for a second? And then right before he drops the F word, we hear these organs playing the F sound, and like, dear Lord, that's the loudest profanity I ever heard. You know, a really funny censor there with, dear Lord, that Ned Flanders says, that's the loudest profanity I ever heard. And these people come into Moe's tavern and tells them that they must get out while Burns is pumping oil. And yeah, Moe literally grabs a gun. Yeah, Moe grabs a gun, and Barney grabs a gun as well. And the oil causes the retirement home to be destroyed as well. And Smithers is not liking the looks of this, and yeah, he's saying that Mr. Burns must be very pleased, but of course he's not pleased, and he wants to block out the sun. Which, this is where Smithers actually stands up for himself and says that he wants no part of this. And of course he gets fired, but he doesn't care. He doesn't want any part of this plan. And Homer is, of course, like, just gonna get Mr. Burns to remember his name and keep hearing to Smithers, who is that ignoramus? And Smithers, who is that lollygagger? And yeah, he goes into Mr. Burns' office and put, I'm Homer Simpson, and he's like, who the devil are you? And yeah, he starts psyching him, saying, I'm Homer Simpson. And he's like, you're dead, Burns, after getting carried away. And Abe is unpacking, and Bart sees this old pistol, this old gun, and Marge is going to go bury it in the backyard. And we see this town meeting, and yeah, we literally see everybody is carrying a gun. Everybody is carrying a gun, a pistol. They're literally carrying a gun with them, and everybody is saying of what Mr. Burns has done to them. Like, the bad things that Mr. Burns has did to them. And they were pretty funny as well. And Bart is like, look what he did to my best friend. And they cut to Millhouse eating cheese puffs. And he's like, no, my dog. And then Mr. Burns comes in, and Bart's about to charge him, but he's got a gun of his own because of the whole attack that Homer did. And of course, everybody's angry at Mr. Burns. And yeah, he then blocks out the sun. Now it's pitch black in Springfield. And Krusty comes, saying that apparently he wasn't there the whole couple weeks. And he tells them, what did he miss? And yeah, they're all angry. And Mr. Burns is just happy as can be. And then we see that Carl says, that's odd. Smithers left his jacket behind. And Otto is like, that's odd. Principal Skinner left his mother behind. And then Marge is like, where's Homer? And Bart and Lisa and Grandpa. And we literally see the gun that Grandpa Simpson had that Marge buried. The gun is gone. And then all of a sudden we hear a gunshot. And yeah, Mr. Burns gets shot in the chest. And, of course, everybody is a suspect, right? Because everybody had a good reason to shoot Mr. Burns. And then they point to Chief Wiggum, and he's like, to solve this case. And he's like, well, I'll try. It's my job. And that finishes the first part of the special. And then we cut to the second part, where it begins with, or it cuts to Smithers waking up and thinking it was all a dream, because he sees Mr. Burns, and he do this racing, but no, of course, that was a dream. Yeah, Mr. Burns really was shot, which, yeah, Kent Brockman is breaking the news, and how he was sent to a hospital claiming to be dead, and then claiming to be alive in another hospital. And we're saying the police are doing some suspects who could stop Mr. Burns, like Santa's Little Helper and Maggie, and, I mean, the family even say that like, anybody could have been a suspect, though. And a good reason to suit Mr. Burns. And Marge says that they already have a suspect, Smithers, that could have sought Mr. Burns, which makes sense. And yeah, Smithers thinks that maybe he could have sought Mr. Burns, and he sees that he's got a gun, and it's been fired, like it's been sought. And then he remembers bumping into somebody, believing it's Mr. Burns, and yeah, he just breaks down crying. And Barney and them and the gang are telling Homer if he wants to come and destroy that missing thing that Mr. Burns built to block out the sun, which they do. They destroy it, and it goes into Sylvieville. And Smithers is confessing that he shot Mr. Burns, and yeah, of course, Chief Wiggum is like, that's all I needed to hear. And yeah, Kent Brockman is telling of how Smithers fails of shooting his boss and his mentor. And yeah, Sideshow Mel doesn't think that Smithers did it because of this program that he would have catched. And then they go to the police station saying that they arrested the wrong man. And yeah, they release this actual criminal, and talking about Smithers, which, yeah, he bumped into this other old man and shot him, which, no, it was just his leg, thankfully. Which, yeah, Smithers gets free, released. And Lisa has different suspects that she brings, like Moe, Barney, groundskeeper Willie, and Principal Skinner, that had good reasons to suit Mr. Burns. And of course that jazz musician as well that Lisa wanted to do. Which, yeah, they go to the jazz musician and they do this catchy song as well. Then they go to Principal Skinner, which him talking about how he was accidentally grabbed his mom's makeup, and Superintendent Chalmers coming in looking surprised or shocked. And then they go to groundskeeper Willie, which he unfolds or uncrosses his legs, and they're like, this is your last chance to not do that. And then they go to Moe, which is this lie detector, and he keeps lying, and sometimes few times he tells the truth, and then he keeps lying, and you can just see the cops smiling, like they're enjoying him just doing it. And Marge is wondering where the gun went that she buried, and of course Abe has it. And Chief Wiggum is asleep and has this dream of Lisa telling him to go look at Mr. Burns' suit, which they do, and they find an eyelash, which, yeah, Chief Wiggum does a bribe, and they have Simpson DNA and of the eyelash, and Mr. Burns wakes up saying Homer Simpson, and they find a gun in his car with the exact same fingerprints, and it was the exact same bullet. The gun had the exact same bullet as the one they got out of Mr. Burns, so Homer is placed under arrest for attempted murder. And the chief goes to Krusty Burger trying to get his food and tips over, and Homer's trying to escape. And we see Dr. Nick saying to Mr. Burns, which apparently all he can say is Homer Simpson. And yeah, they're saying that anybody could have, that gun could have been there. And yeah, we see that Homer, or how the fingerprints could have gotten on the gun. And the chief is showing a picture of Homer, and Smithers is offering a good reward whoever captures him, which Homer then approaches Mr. Burns, saying, "Oh, you finally remembered my name." And Lisa goes to the scene of the crime and believes that her dad really did do it. And then she goes to the hospital and tells them to not shoot Homer. And yeah, he's telling Mr. Burns to remember his name, and he's like, "Smithers, who is this that is shaking me?" And then he grabs the chief's gun and points it at Mr. Burns' forehead. Tell him I never shot you before. And he says the one that actually shot him was Maggie. Yeah, Maggie was the one that shot him. And then we see how, before the gunshot, from the first part, we see that Mr. Burns sees Maggie in the car and trying to take the lollipop away from her, and the gun slips and she fires it straight at Mr. Burns. And he says to arrest Maggie, tells the police to arrest Maggie, and he's like, yeah, of course, yeah, no way, we're not gonna be arresting a baby. And Marge is like, she didn't mean to. If she can talk, she would apologize. And we just see Maggie just doing her eyes back and forth. But yeah, a really good special, and another one of my personal favorites. Just the whole mystery as well of who could have shot Mr. Burns, since there's a lot of people that had reasons to shoot Mr. Burns.